Yeah, I'm not sure why the other video kept blinking. But anyway, this is about, again, I'll go back. This is in regards to Thomas Jefferson's letter talking about peace through the medium of war and the war with the Moors and the Barbary slave trade. And how after the Barbary slave trade, or after the Barbary Wars, the European powers that formed the coalition to defeat us stopped the trafficking of their European counterparts. And that's why I started talking about the word slave and how the Moors put Europeans into slavery. The Geneva Bible talks about Moors. Then I talk about what nationalism is, and I define some of the words for people. And then I go over some case law on what nationality is. This is all case law. I talk about Noble Drew Ali. Oh, look at that language. That looks like Arabic to me. This says something from Allah is near. I know min means from. That's clearly Allah. Qarib means near or close. So something from Allah is close. Interesting. Anyway. Here's the change of the nationality cards. Where they added, I'm a citizen of the United States of America. This is from 1926. This is from 1940s. Alaikum salam. This is about the FBI, counterintelligence program. J. Edgar Hoover. The assassination of Fred Hampton. How Congresswoman Ilhan Omar talked about Fred Hampton's assassination. What the church committee was. Some of the hearings where they talked about, let me see. How FBI agents expose, disrupt, misdirect, discredit, and otherwise neutralize our people. So I started to copy and paste the text, and then I figured I would just screenshot from the documents itself. So that's what I started to do. And how the Black Panther Party were targets of the United States government. How the FBI tried to get the Black Peace Stones and the Black Panther Party to fight each other and kill each other off. That's what the United States government did. And you see where they mention Jeff Fort by name. And you shouldn't wonder why he's in prison now. So if you don't know anything about the counterintelligence program, the book, this is the Moorish lexicon. Here's some of the FBI offices. Here's the Black Messiah Act, prevent the coalition of militant black nationalists. Here's that same Black Messiah Act without the redactions. This is about Jeff Fort and how the FBI entrapped him. And, from the FBI COINTELPRO papers from Senate.gov, how January 30th, 1969, the Bureau headquarters in Washington approved sending an anonymous letter to the leader of the Black Stone Rangers, Jeff Fort, which indicated that the Black Panthers had put a contract out on his life as a result of conflicts between the two organizations. Now, you say that was to warn him. I ask, wasn't the principal purpose of the letter to encourage the Rangers to shoot some or all of the leadership of the Panthers? Otherwise, what does this quote mean? And I will read it. It is from a memorandum from the Chicago office of the FBI asking approval to undertake this. Here is the way it reads. It is believed that the above, this anonymous tip that a contract is out on you, it is believed that the above may intensify the degree of animosity between the two groups and occasion for it to take retaliatory actions which could disrupt the Black Panther Party, the Black Panthers, or lead to reprisals against its leadership. Consideration has been given to a similar letter to the Panthers alleging a Ranger plot against Panther leadership. So the FBI tried to put our people against each other to get them to fight each other. And they mentioned Jeff Fort by name. So no questions as to why Jeff Fort, who had our people looking like this, who had a building that looked like this, Adept Chamber of the Moorish Science Temple of America in Chicago. No, there's no question as to why they put him in prison. Intelligence.senate.gov. Senator Hart of Colorado, I think there is plenty of documentation of the attempt to set the Black Panthers against the Black Stone Rangers in Chicago. L. Ruckin, Grand Major Temple, Adept Chamber of the Moorish Science Temple of America. The building used to say the Fort on it in honor of Jeff Fort. Obviously a double entendre, play on words, Jeff Fort and a fortress in Chicago. And here's the police raiding the Moors. There it is right there, Fort. Moorish Science Temple of America. And it explains how the state's agent who testified against Jeff Fort and this alleged Ruckinese was coached by the FBI to interpret what Jeff Fort was allegedly speaking in code in. So if this guy was a general within the Al Ruckins, an alleged gang, why would he need help from the FBI to interpret his own code language? Ruckin witness confesses 2 slangs, attempt to bribe a judge. Chicago Tribune, 1987. An Al Ruckin general, who is testifying against 5 fellow gang members in federal court, has confessed 2 slangs in attempt to bribe a judge, according to a pretrial guilty plea released Tuesday at the federal conspiracy trial of the 5. Tremel Davis, the prosecution's key witness in the terrorist conspiracy trial, confessed to his part in dozens of illegal gang activities and implicated most of the Al Ruckin leadership at the same time, sources said. His admissions have dramatically broadened the scope of the government's case, and lawyers believe they will lead to further indictments. Davis, who has been testifying in U.S. District Court against his former gang associates, pleaded guilty on the eve of the trial to the Libyan-related charges. But for the first time, Tuesday, it was revealed that he also had pled guilty to the murder and bribery plots. Davis pleaded guilty in return for a maximum 35-year sentence. Fort and his 5 co-defendants face up to 270 years each if convicted on the Libyan charges alone. So obviously, they're using scare tactics, threatening people with 270 years. People don't even live that long. So this guy was like, well, I'd rather lie and get out in 35 years than face 270. FBI cracked code from Al Ruckin calls. Chicago Tribune, November 12th, 1987. The FBI became familiar with the Ruckin code, in which terrorist plots were allegedly discussed, by listening in on thousands of hours of telephone conversations, according to testimony Wednesday at the federal conspiracy trial of 5 gang members. Now, let me ask you something. How would the Libyan government know this Ruckinese? How is it that there's a Libyan conspiracy with Jeff Fort, but no Libyans were charged with anything? They weren't even charged. There was no court case with any Libyans. The United States didn't try to contact the Libyan government and extradite the terrorist. The United States didn't go in and take the terrorists, because didn't they say that bin Laden tried to do some terrorist stuff and he succeeded, so they invaded Afghanistan? They told the people of Afghanistan, give us the terrorist. And they said, well, according to our customs, we can't just turn someone over. So then they invaded the country. So why didn't they invade the country and grab the terrorist? Why was it just Jeff Fort? Wow, interesting. FBI agent Edward Hamara acquired an extensive knowledge of the Al Ruckin code and learned to recognize the voices of Al Ruckin members, he told Assistant U.S. Attorney Susan Bogart. Hamara said he supervised the taping of telephone calls at Al Ruckin headquarters, 3949 South Dexter Boulevard, between April and August 1986. 5 Al Ruckins, including their leader Jeff Fort, are charged with plotting to carry out acts of terrorism in the United States in return for $2.5 million from Libya's Colonel Muammar Gaddafi. The code has become the key issue in the trial, because virtually all the evidence for the alleged conspiracy is contained in the taped telephone conversations. So there was no actual evidence. Most of the calls were made by Fort from his prison cell in Texas. So he was making calls from a prison cell and they somehow taped it. And they are incomprehensible to anyone unversed in what one lawyer termed El Ruckinese. A 6th accused gang member, Tremel Davis, helped the prosecution translate dozens of the conversations, incriminating his former gang fellows with his interpretations. Murder, plots to blow up airplanes, and plans to send Al Ruckin members to Libya to train in the use of explosives were among the subjects under discussion, Davis testified. But under cross-examination, Davis was inconsistent in his interpretation of some key words and admitted he had received coaching from the FBI agents as to the meaning of others. So how are you a high-level gang member, but you need the FBI to help you translate your own language? Okay. Jeff Fort was laughing so hard that he had to wipe the tears from his eyes with the hem of his Arab-style robe that he was wearing. Bogart played a tape Wednesday for an uncoded conversation between defendant Leon McAnderson and Charles Knox, an unidacted co-conspirator who is not an El Ruckin member and who therefore did not speak the code. Knox described the conversation he had with defendant Rico Crenshaw, in which Crenshaw started talking in unknown tones. "I don't know what he was talking about. I ain't into this code thing," Knox said. His unflattering references to Crenshaw sent the defendants into giggles. Jeff Fort laughed so hard he had to blah, 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 blah. And then here's the actual case where the FBI, they prove that they entrapped them. They shifted gears, right? So this is from the case itself. The FBI, through Special Agent Willie T. Holland and Sam Buford, an informant, contacted Alan Knox, a member of the El Ruckins, and offered to sell him several law rockets and other military supplies. Holland had been in the process of setting up Knox for a cocaine sting, but successfully shifted gears and convinced Knox that he was able to provide high-tech military weapons such as rockets. So the only thing that the FBI truly have is that they were trying to set them up for cocaine. They duped one guy into trying to sell him cocaine, and then they changed it to rocket launchers, and that's why they opened the case against them. That's called entrapment. I messed up on this book, but I fixed it later on. This is one of the first prints of the Moors. These aren't gang members. Right, and then when you watch, the government star witness in the El Ruckin gangs conspiracy trial acknowledged under cross-examination in federal court Monday that FBI agents has coached him in his efforts to translate the gang secret code. Tremel Davis, a former El Ruckin general, testified that he didn't know the meaning of certain words in the code, allegedly used by the El Ruckin leader Jeff Fort on telephone conversations from his Texas prison cell to gang members in Chicago, telling them to buy weapons for terrorism. Davis conceded that he had received coaching in the code from FBI agents after he began cooperating with the government in April 1987. Since you began cooperating with the government, have you received coaching from the FBI as to the meaning of certain words? Asked Brody, who was defending Knox. Some, Davis replied. A maximum 35-year sentence and $10,000 and government protection. That's what he sold the Moors out for. $10,000. I'm going to take a break. I have to pray. Again, this is the Moorish lexicon, riseofthemoors.org.